All right. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our second episode of Tactics for Young Professionals. Today, we'll be talking to Chris Pereira from Huawei. So Chris, say hi and please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it. Hi, guys. My name is Chris Pereira. I'm Senior Director of Public Affairs at Huawei Canada. Got about 15 years of experience in China, but originally from Canada, and been in Ottawa for about a year now.
Awesome. So thanks for introducing yourself, Chris. So I know I gave you kind of the game plan of kind of what we're going to be doing, but let's go over it again. We're going to be talking about, all right, what are some tactics that we can do to get a job during COVID-19 situation? However, we're going to take away the bank account. We're going to be taking away your connections. We're going to be taking away pretty much everything except for your experience and everything that's in your head. But we're also going to make you 25 years old again.
So, sounds like a good deal, actually.
It sounds like a good deal. Oh, yeah. You would probably make a killing in the future. I would love to do the same thing, actually. I'm pretty sure so many people would love to do that trade back. But so that's the rules. And it's more of a tactical conversation. I think a lot of the students are hearing some things on the news, but they don't really get the tactics of how to maneuver. And I think that'll be a great conversation to have. So with that said, Chris, what's step one?
Yeah, so I think it's a very interesting, it's a great question, actually, because it's, first of all, it's realistic. It's what a lot of people are going to be facing right now because of COVID-19. To answer the question, to get started on it, I'd say the first thing when you're facing a challenge is to take stock of what you have in terms of your quote-unquote weapons, your ability. So in that situation, you're 25 years old, you don't have any money, you don't have any connections, that's fine. Good news is you've got the most important thing, which is your brain. And I think that's the key, is to focus on what you actually have. And if you have your brain and your knowledge, you're seriously in good shape. So that's the first thing. And I have three thoughts about this question, how to go about. It's truly a tactical thing, because you're faced with a challenge. You don't have any money. You're probably living at your parents' house or just about to leave your dormitory. And how do you survive, right? You need to eat. That's number one. These are going to be real tactical suggestions on my part. And the first is, so you're just graduated. You know probably at least 50, probably 100 people in your program. You've just graduated. Probably more if you really are generous with the people you've met over the last 4 years, just in a class. So take stock of who you know first is the first suggestion.
Nice.
In other words, build your circle of potential supporters, because all of those people are in the same boat right now. And I'll get back to why that's important in the next suggestion. So the first thing is to take stock of who you know already, and you're not looking to say, hey, do I know the Prime Minister or some important person, some business person? It's Alice or Jane sitting next to you in class. Those are the people who will be your allies right now. So that's the first thing. What do you do with those people? I've got two suggestions for that. So first step is take stock of who you know. Second would be, how do you use them? And I think there's two tactical ways you could go about that. That would be win-win for everyone. The first would be to get on LinkedIn together. So we'll just say 50 people, 50 people in your life, including your parents, immediate family, etc. So you go on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has a great function, actually, that most people don't actually use to the fullest potential. And so you can give recommendations or ask for recommendations. So if you work together with those 50 people, overnight you could have 50 people giving you a recommendation on LinkedIn. And when someone in HR sees, hey, holy, this guy's got 50 people recommending him from 5 different industries, that would be very powerful. And I actually haven't seen anyone actually do that before, so that's a new suggestion for you.
Just smart. I actually didn't think about this. So awesome, and thank you for bringing that up, because I didn't even think of that. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. So anyone who's watching this, reach out to and if you're looking for a stronger, so let's say you don't have someone immediately who can give you a reference, so ask 5 of your friends. You can work together. This is a time where you need to think of real strategy for that sort of stuff. That's the first thing. The other would be sort of more in-depth, and it might be more complicated, not for everyone, but say you have that 50 people, I would shorten that list down to the top 5, top 10 biggest supporters, or most likely to be in the same industry as you. Find the top 10. And with that group, you can provide the references for each other, because you worked with each other, you've done homework together, done projects together. And instead of thinking, hey, I don't have any reference because it's my first job, it's always that first catch-22, right? You need experience to have a job. You need a job to have experience. It's kind of a tough situation.
So it's always the issue, yeah. That's exactly why I have a
so
company, the +5 XP. It always helps.
Yeah, exactly. The other option is just start your own company and screw all those annoying requirements, because sometimes a reference isn't that important, So that would be the second suggestion for how you use that network of people.
So before you go to the third one, Chris, you said regarding a LinkedIn, what happens if I'm a student who actually doesn't have a great LinkedIn? Would you have, or even how to use LinkedIn? So there's no real class how to use a LinkedIn profile or even how to create one. Do you have any pointers on how to use LinkedIn? Would be great, especially since I know in your field you're probably very connected in that way. So I would love to ask you about that.
I think it's a great question. I wouldn't worry too much about having to fill in LinkedIn with lots of experience. I would start with late high school if you have any projects. Probably, ideally, start with the university. Just put in, really fill in what courses you did, what big projects you thought were really interesting and successful. Just fill in the basics first. I think more importantly on LinkedIn is interacting with people. So when you open up your feed, start following some companies, and whoever ends up popping up is the people in your first LinkedIn feed. Like their stuff, comment. Be real though. You don't want to go down the road where you're being fake. If you're real and you're genuine with your contacts and your people that you meet, I think good things happen. But,
right.
I think that's the key. Is say someone posts about some programming event or something, even though you're not going and you can't afford to go and you're not even qualified to go, like it and say, hey, that looks interesting. If it's interesting for you, or if it's not interesting, you can say, hey, that's doesn't look like the best event. I was looking at this other event. So keep it professional and keep it genuine.
Yeah, no pictures about food. It's not Instagram, right?
Yeah, exactly. And don't. I think in general on social media, do a stock of what you've said online in the last whatever years. Everyone's had their flame wars online. Delete that stuff. Get it all professional. No arguments on social media. Make it professional and keep the arguments to phone calls. Yeah.
Fair enough.
The LinkedIn can be very, very powerful. Yeah.
Okay. And even connecting to people that they may not know, how would you do so if you were a 25-year-old? Like, what would be the mindset?
Oh, and like I said, be very genuine. So say you want to reach out to the CEO of a startup, or even aim bigger, you write to Bill Gates. You write to whoever is your idol in your field. Some of the bigger guys probably won't answer you. So if you choose a CEO of a startup in your city, in Montreal, for example, they're more likely to answer you. So how do you do your first email to them? You say, hi, I'm Chris. I'm actually just graduated and don't have much experience in the field, but I think what you're doing is really cool. Would love to have a coffee with you. Or since it's COVID-19 right now, I'd love to have a chat with you over LinkedIn or whatever.
Zoom or whatever service that's
People are actually quite positive and willing to talk to people, and the people who don't answer are not the people that you want to have in your life in the long term anyway.
Right. And I would even just add that it is a numbers game, especially if you're going to that level. If you ask 30, maybe 20 will answer. 2 would answer, not 20. 20 would be amazing. If 20 people answer of 30, that's great. But,
I've had
2
people
or 3
answer me like 4 months down the road too. Some people just don't look at their LinkedIn enough.
Oh, yeah, that too. Yeah, that happens all the time as well. It's like, oh yeah, it was great to talking to you that time in June 2019. You're like,
yeah,
man, it's March.
Yeah. So don't be afraid of rejection. It's just it's a numbers game, like you said, and be honest and don't expect to get something back. In other words, if you're communicating with them and offering your genuine opinion, you've got your brain in this situation, right? You're 25 and you got your brain. That's what people want and need in this world right now.
Okay, cool. And I know you had a third one, so let's get back to that third one. So what was your third tactic?
So the third is a longer term tactic. It's the R&D side of personal development. For example, at Huawei, we invest about $15 billion a year in R&D, and we don't see the return on that tomorrow or next week. It's more like 5-10 years down the road. Maybe we'll get some profit from that. So at the same time as you're doing these immediate actions, these tactical things to find a job or build a connection, you need to invest in yourself still. Even though you have this great brain on your shoulders, it's going to become obsolete if you don't invest in it. So my third suggestion is continue to learn, be humble, and assume that everyone you meet can teach you something, even if you don't like them.
Great.
The third suggestion is do the R&D for your self-development and read a book, talk to someone, try to learn something new every day.
Awesome. So I'm gonna definitely grow on that. So you know, can you give us 3 books that you would say that, you know, a 25-year-old should read during these times? Maybe 3 podcasts as well. And what are some skills that they should develop? So 3 or 3.
Oh, that's great. So I'm not going to give a specific book because I want this video to survive over time. And I think I would suggest several things. One is go on, if you're interested in a topic, go on YouTube and watch the gurus telling you about it. That would be one. Harvard Business Review has tons of great books. I'll tell you one. It's 17 tips for leadership for managers is what I'm reading right now.
Yes.
And those sort of books, leadership, communication skills. Generally, when you graduate from university, I would say probably 85% of people with a STEM degree probably have very strong knowledge skills, capable skills, but the communication skills are where they might be lacking. So especially with COVID-19, I feel like I'm going backwards. It feels great to talk to someone being quarantined. So anything that when you're looking for the direction for what to improve on, I would say I remember I had a professor in my MBA program in Hong Kong. Their suggestion, and I think it's a great one, is to focus on your strengths. So yes, you can go learn how to play piano or play guitar, but you're not going to get paid to do that if you haven't done that for 20 years already. So if you're a good communicator, build on that. If you're a good programmer, build on that and add a little bit of communication skills, but don't.
Okay. So yeah, that's great. I was really hoping to get some of the books though. Man, I was so disappointed. I wanted some more books. I was like, Chris is gonna have these awesome books. But
so the book side, I'm conflicted because I listen to audiobooks now, and I think books are very, very personal. I don't, when I've tried to go out and buy ones that are recommended, like through podcasts and things, I've often been disappointed.
Okay.
So I like to give it's the old cliche of teaching someone to fish. You know, it's find what you're interested in and listen to it. And when you have that option of it's 6 or 7 at night, or maybe it's 3 in the afternoon because it's COVID-19 quarantine time, and you're thinking about watching Netflix, don't watch Netflix. Go watch a YouTube video on something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Reading isn't the key. It's more learn something new.
Yep, I like it. And one of the last things is you just actually made me think of it. I was just watching Adam Grant. I don't know if you know who Adam Grant is from Wharton School of Business. He's a professor there, and he talks about organizational behavior. And he was talking about how people are going to start procrastinating because of fear. So that normally people procrastinate due to the amount of fear they have regarding a subject. I was wondering if you would actually like to chime in, because I would love to have, you and I would definitely have a beer off this if without COVID-19 time. So I just want to ask you,
yeah, absolutely. So it's being the idea of fear being the sort of freezing people, right?
Right.
So I think there's 2 things about that. One, I want to talk a bit about procrastination too, in general. Being afraid, I think, I'm not sure if it's fear that would cause someone to stop. I think it's the idea that, look, everything is stopped. There's no sense in investing in anything productive right now because nothing's happening. So I think being able to defer gratification a bit longer is important right now. So you read a book, you can't go out and practice what you're reading right away right now, would be the first thing. But I think in general, procrastination is a bigger problem than the fear. That's just my own baseless opinion.
Okay.
But, I think, at least when I was 24, I think the bigger problem was procrastination in general. And what helped me get over that, and I don't feel like I'm a procrastinator anymore. Like I'm quite probably gone polar opposite and probably do too much work each day and should relax a bit. But the procrastination for me was because I was trying to force myself to do something that I didn't want to do, and that whip only works temporarily, and you start to rebel against yourself. You know, you can't be a slave driver for yourself every day. You can sometimes if you have to do something. So the key to eliminating procrastination is to tell yourself you don't have to do it. You don't have to do anything in this world if you're okay with the result, with the consequence, right?
With the
you
consequences,
can sit on the ground and die of hunger if you want. Totally fine. And if that, I think that's kind of liberating in some ways to know that it actually there's no positive requirement to do anything. If that makes sense, as long as you're okay with what happens by not doing or doing something. So I think that's been very helpful for me, as it was when I was learning Chinese. I went to China to study Chinese at the beginning. About a year in, I hit a roadblock where I really didn't want to study anymore, and I looked onto YouTube actually, and looked up procrastination, and there was a great video from, I think it was a TED Talk that said just that you don't actually have to do anything. And I realized, well, what if I don't study today? I'll reward myself. I'll just not study today, and I'll do it tomorrow. And I was sort of nice to myself instead of being a total jerk, calling myself names in my head, saying it.
Right, 100%.
Indeed, like some of the things we say to ourselves. I mean, we wouldn't be friends with ourselves on the street if if it was someone else saying those things, you know.
Yes, I completely agree with that.
Remember, yeah. So, procrastination is different for everyone, but for me, it was realizing that it's not a obligation to do anything.
Yeah. So, well, that's awesome, Chris. Thanks for your time. But before we leave, can you just give us a summary of 3 things that if you were to take away from this?
Oh, this is so. First of all, the question you're asking is absolutely fantastic. When you reached out to ask me to talk about this, I thought the question is pertinent, it's useful, and it's creative. So I really enjoyed the conversation. I think we should do more of these.
Awesome.
And that's number 1. Number 2, guys out there, just talking about this makes me realize how difficult time it is to be someone who's graduating into this market. But at the same time, remember that because it's harder to find a job, the job that you do find is going to be the right fit for you. Because it's not, when jobs are easy to find, you might choose the wrong one. In this case, someone who thinks you fit and you think you fit into the organization, it might be a blessing in disguise. And the third is, it's great talking to you. I'm very happy to have this opportunity.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Chris. That's 3 takeaways. It's awesome. And honestly, number 2 is actually very true. I think a lot of people are not really focusing on that. I think they're going to see that in a year from now. So thank you very much for your time, Chris, and have a good one, and be safe.
Great. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Chris.